Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 110 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. Luo Feng gazed at the 23 world-level primordial beings before him, along with the countless over 10 million high-level primordial lives. In the future, managing the vast territory under his command would depend on these subordinates. The cultivator territory was vast, and it could be anticipated that as the overall strength increased, the territory would continue to expand. A large number of source worlds, billions of ordinary worlds, and naturally nurtured treasure mines. The high-level primordial lives on the cultivator side were not enough, so they had to rely on those innate primordial lives who had submitted to manage it barely. The lords wouldn't worry about these trivial matters. This is our first meeting. Luo Feng smiled at these subordinates. In the future, if there's anything important, feel free to report directly. All the subordinates listened excitedly, etching the image and aura of the man in black clothes and black hair before them deep in their hearts. This was the great lord they would follow from now on. Among the many high-level primordial lives, there were also Qiu and Yufei. They had previously guarded the dark sacred realm and naturally belonged to Luo Feng's command. Not even 2,000 epochs have passed, and he's already a lord. Qiu and Yufei gazed at Luo Feng in the distance, feeling that everything was too surreal. The last time they guided Luo Feng, he was merely a half-primordial fusion Dao cultivator, yet now, though his appearance hadn't changed, his aura was boundless, and every word carried endless pressure. This was the existence that grasped the highest power of Dao, and the primordial life and death Dao was a part of Luo Feng's life. Such a great existence brought unimaginable oppression. Even the hundreds of ancestors in the innate primordial life camp couldn't win against the 8 lords individually. It's known how terrifying the deterrence of any single lord is. Your tasks will soon be adjusted, detailed arrangements will be issued shortly, Luo Feng said. 23 world-level primordials and Cheng, stay behind. Other high-level primordial lives may leave now. Yes. The over 10 million high-level primordial lives respectfully bowed and left. Having a chance to meet the Lord's main avatar was already satisfying for them. Cheng is truly fortunate. As these high-level primordial lives left, they looked towards Cheng with envy. Of course, they knew Cheng. Among the more than 10,000 high-level primordial lives in the Dark World group, Cheng had the greatest influence, and this time, he was specifically asked to stay by the Lord. Follow me inside. Luo Feng turned and walked towards the depths of the cave mansion, with the 23 world-level primordials and the only high-level primordial, Cheng, following in. The Lord actually kept me behind, intending to make great use of me. But I'm just a mere high-level primordial. The small and thin elder, Cheng, was a bit nervous and excited. He was also summoned by the Lord. The world-level primordials glanced at Cheng, briefly investigating and immediately understanding the detailed information about Cheng. Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion. Luo Feng sat leisurely by a lakeside, looking at his subordinates. Our cultivator camp and the innate primordial life camp have just concluded the war. Some territories are still fallen and need to be recovered one by one, Luo Feng said. Each of you must bear the responsibility of guarding. Yes. The 23 world-level primordials and Cheng replied respectfully, with manpower being tight, and their main battle avatars needing to participate in the garrison. I have already appointed the 4 directions commanders and 19 guardian generals, Luo Feng said. At his level, based on the previous arrangements of the whole cultivator territory, he had already made the plan in just a few breaths. Every task for the high-level primordial lives had been determined, and those like Qiu and Yufei, who had some acquaintance, received some significant roles this time as well. Am I the Guardian General? Qianlanqi received the detailed arrangement sent by the Lord. Qianlanqi, as a newly advanced world-level primordial, was of relatively low strength among the same level, ranked among the 19 Guardian Generals. In terms of power, much lower than the 4 directions commanders. Besides the borders, my subordinate territories also need 3 inspections, Luo Feng said. Instantly, each of the 23 world-level primordial lives tightened their hearts. The position of territory inspection essentially meant deputy management of expansive territories since it could command over 100 world groups and offered numerous benefits. Will I be chosen? Jianlanqi was somewhat expectant. I am from the same world group as the Lord, but last time I didn't visit him, and my strength is relatively weak. Jianlanqi was feeling a sense of gain and loss at that moment. My territories are temporarily divided into 3 domains. First Domain Inspector, Chengshe, Second Domain Inspector, Shuhua, Third Domain Inspector, Guangyu, Luo Feng said. A bald man, seemingly ordinary with restrained aura, was actually the strongest in combat under Luo Feng. Chengshe was originally a fusion Dao cultivator, later choosing to refine bloodlines into a world-level primordial. He chose 2 completely opposite bloodlines and pushed the power of the bloodline to an incredible level. At the world-level primordial tier, he is one of the top ranks in the cultivator camp. He is quite humble, has many friends, and has conducted affairs to the satisfaction of the lords over a long time. Luo Feng chose him without hesitation as the first. Shuhua, somewhat burly, clad in deep purple scales, is the weakest among the 3 inspectors, at the late stage of the world-level primordial. However, he had previously served as an inspector and did very well. Guangyu, a man with bent horns, at world-level primordial perfection tier. His strength under Luo Feng was second only to Chengshe. Luo Feng chose these 3 because they had previously proven to be extremely capable of doing things. I was selected. Xu Hua felt relieved. Being chosen by Yuan before did not guarantee that Luo Feng would also select him. But he was still chosen. The Lord likely values capability over strength. Xu Hua understood, for the Lord, the difference between early stage and perfection world-level primordials may make no difference. He had previously conducted affairs in such a manner as to satisfy the Lord adequately. Not me. Jianlanqi felt a bit disappointed, but he also understood that when the Lord hadn't stepped out of the braided cage, the entire hometown of over 10,000 high-level primordial lives had visited, but he alone didn't. That was a total lack of respect. The Lord not choosing him was reasonable. This Jianlanqi, inherently arrogant, is unsuitable for an inspection role. Luo Feng indeed regarded Jianlanqi highly, considering they came from the same hometown. But from some prior matters, Luo Feng could discern Jianlanqi's character. Jianlanqi was too arrogant. He esteemed those stronger than himself and couldn't be bothered with those weaker. Even when he was a high-level primordial life, he was on poor terms with over 10,000 high-level primordial lives from the same hometown. The townsfolk didn't regard him highly. The more minor and weaker ones? Why would Jianlanqi care? Such a disposition, to manage over 100 world groups. Directly overseeing tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives and monitoring hundreds of thousands of them? Each patrol impacts hundreds of world groups. Luo Feng, responsible for countless weak ones, must also be careful. In Luo Feng's view, sympathizing with the weak is the first requirement of being a patrol. Cheng. Luo Feng looked at the only high-level primordial present. Lord. Cheng was very excited. Being valued so highly by the Lord, he was willing to die in battle for him at this moment. The Dark World Group is my absolute territory, Luo Feng said. The construction needed next will be managed by you, leading numerous high-level primordial life forms, responsible for the detailed construction affairs. Though some of the absolute territories were built personally by Luo Feng, the majority still required many high-level primordial life forms and numerous captives to labor painstakingly. The subordinate will exert every effort, Cheng said excitedly. Good. Luo Feng nodded with a smile, believing in Cheng's organizational skills because of his influence locally. Among my territories, 93 world groups still remain in ruin. Luo Feng looked at his subordinates. The 65 world groups occupied by the innate primordial life camp will be swiftly reclaimed by our lords. The remaining 28 world groups have been invaded by both the Blood Crane territory and Omimo forces. Chengshe, make a trip to the Blood Crane territory, compel them to quickly return the occupied world groups. If they refuse, simply return, Luo Feng instructed. Yes, Chengshe responded. Guan Yu, visit Omimo, similarly instructing them to return the occupied world groups. If they refuse, there's no need to argue, just return directly. The following matters can be left to me, Luo Feng said. How to reclaim the fallen territories had already been deliberated and determined by the 8 lords. The world groups occupied by the innate primordial life camp, because the ancestors were unwilling to continue fighting, naturally wouldn't hold on to those territories, making it easy for the 8 lords to reclaim them. The Ice Peak camp occupied over 100 world groups, to be dealt with last, when all 8 lords would address it together. There are 11 other forces, granting them the chance to withdraw voluntarily. If face isn't given, then initiate war. The cultivator camp faces too many opponents, and that's why they are given the chance to voluntarily withdraw. These 11 forces, although only 2 have seats in the land of eternity, the others do not have seats. But lacking a seat doesn't mean weak. Just like 9 emperors among whom 5 do not have seats in the land of eternity, yet their strength is exceedingly strong. The forces Luo Feng plans to target, Blood Crane territory, and Omimo, each has considerable foundations, otherwise they wouldn't dare exploit the situation. Like the force Omimo, which ranked among the top 3 camps in infinite primordial space in the distant past. Later, Omimo's camp was defeated by the innate primordial life camp, either killed or fled, now only possessing 1/10 to 2/10 of its original strength. I hope these 2 forces will know what's at stake, Luo Feng thought. Cultivator territory, Dark World Group, Land of Origin Source World. This is the Land of Origin. Xushin stood in the sky above Huyang City, gazing at the flourishing city. Since Luo Feng mastered the source world of his homeland, Xushin became like a child of the world, unaffected by any threat or harm, even capable of wielding a strand of origin power from the source world. Luo Feng, what realm have you reached? Xushin looked at Luo Feng, her eyes filled with disbelief. Just recently, Luo Feng had her understand numerous insights. The supreme rules no longer limit her, allowing her to comprehend all secrets. Considered the highest level among cultivators, Lord, Luo Feng said. Lord? Having just learned the information, Xushin couldn't help but say, according to what you told me, even being in the Divine Emperor realm still resides inside the braided cage. Stepping outside the braided cage is what's known as high-level primordial life, world-level primordial life, and ultimately Lord. You've become a Lord. Xushin only felt everything was too dreamlike. Morosa. Luo Feng summoned him with a thought. Morosa appeared out of thin air and was even more shocked when he saw Xushin. He knew very well the mistress's power was weak, unable to survive under the environment of the land of origin. But now, facing her, the force he felt from her seemed capable of crushing him. Morosa, greetings to the 2 masters. Morosa respectfully saluted. Luo Feng glanced at him. Morosa, as the sector beast, would have been destined to die with the self-destruction of the source world if he hadn't broken free from fate's restraints. But now, with Luo Feng mastering the source world, Morosa naturally escapes those restraints. Even if dead, Luo Feng could resurrect him. Within the source world of my homeland, life inside the braided cage can now be resurrected by me, Luo Feng said, so it's necessary to decide the resurrection list. Both Xushin and Morosa were shocked. Resurrection? Luo Feng had long planned, intending to personally draft a list. His wife, Luo Ping, Luo Hai, led by his closest kin, could also determine a resurrection list, representing Luo Feng's family. The primordial ancestor, Primal Chaos City Lord, Hong, Thunder Lord, True Inference King, led by humanity on the primordial cosmos side, would also draft a list. Morosa, Master Emperor Chu, Master Mountain Sitting Guest, leading another force, would also draft a list. Emperor Qing, Emperor Ming, Di Fu, Moyu Qingyang, Emperor Chu Yu, etc., also have advisory rights. Future Land of Origin Source World must maintain a balance among the 3 sides. After resurrection, can everyone obtain eternal life? Xushin asked. Yes. Luo Feng nodded. What about the quantity? Xushin pressed further. For me, there's no limit. Luo Feng replied with a smile. Xushin stirred up a tremendous wave. As Luo Feng's wife, she managed many affairs in the Galaxy Sacred Land universe. She was well aware that eternal life after resurrection, no limit on quantity, would bring many issues. There must be a threshold for resurrection. Shushin said, otherwise, these numerous resurrected lives will severely impact order. Over time, as their numbers grow and their descendants multiply endlessly, the impact will become increasingly severe. Eternal life after resurrection is an enormous joy, but if not handled well, it could lead to endless troubles. Don't worry about impacting order. Luo Feng said with a smile, the resurrection list for the primordial cosmos, I will create a separate new primordial cosmos for them. They will live within this new primordial cosmos, favored by the rules, all possessing eternal life, but their cultivation would still need to progress step by step from star traveler level to star level. If they are capable, and cultivate to become a true god of void space and pass through reincarnation to enter the land of origin, that would be their own ability. Those resurrected, cultivating step by step from weakness, how many can become eternal true gods in the primordial cosmos region environment? Create a separate new primordial cosmos. Shushin brightened up, this way would avoid much trouble, as many resurrected hold very special statuses, and some even have favor owed to Luo Feng. That way, the list could be significantly expanded, even allowing for the resurrection of a large number of innocent creatures who died in the golden horned giant beast calamity. Shushin nodded, recognizing that even if resurrected, it's just the population of one planet. To think, there would be a new primordial cosmos at that time. However, the list must be carefully screened, those guilty of heinous crimes or betraying humanity will not qualify. Shushin contemplated. No rush, first establish a mature resurrection plan. Luo Feng said. Those resurrected, if killed, will they die? Shushin asked again. Yes. Luo Feng nodded, I can grant them another chance for resurrection, but the threshold must be raised significantly. Shushin nodded, knowing this was a matter with profound implications, just within the Luo family, historically numerous talented ones who died, those who had earned merit points, who sacrificed themselves for family and humanity, were already numerous. Morosa, I'll have my mentors Emperor Chu and mountain-sitting guest, with the two of you responsible for the revival list of cultivators from the land of origin. Luo Feng said, the list for revival on the land of origin requires even greater caution. The creatures in the primordial cosmos side are generally weak, consuming less resources. The land of origin side is different, resurrecting a life form would consume resources that surpass those needed for creatures of the primordial cosmos. Understood. Morosa was very obedient. I'll first go find Luo Ping. Shushin said, taking a step to cross distant spacetime and headed for the primordial cosmos region. Being able to harness a trace of the primordial cosmos origin power, she could be considered an envoy of the source world. Within the scope of the origin continent origin world, even the divine emperor is far from her match. Luo Feng watched this scene, knowing his son Luo Ping was the true manager of the Luo family. Swoosh! Luo Feng also took a step and left. What realm has the master truly reached? Morosa had many thoughts, learning everything Luo Feng and his wife Shushin had discussed, yet neither had told others, including Morosa. Morosa only knew the master was strong beyond imagination, able to elevate the mistress to a terrifying level of power, capable of resurrecting all lives within the braided cage. I've heard that only the master of the source world can resurrect lives within the source world. Is the master of the source world? Morosa wondered, having some understanding of what lies above the braided cage in past years. Luo Feng himself had a resurrection list in mind. Those who have supported him from weakness on his journey, anyone with a measure of favor towards him, Luo Feng is willing to offer them resurrection opportunities along with resurrecting those they care most about. The Firehammer squad from before, the teacher who once taught me, the comrades who fought alongside me in the wilderness zone, and the companions who perished during the golden horned giant beast catastrophe. Each of these figures in Luo Feng's heart, never forgotten. For those with favor towards Luo Feng, he would not only resurrect them but also equip them with certain resources, smoothing their path in cultivation. In a secluded small town on the land of origin, mountain-sitting guest lived in seclusion there. He practiced artifact refining alone. Flames surged, illuminating mountain-sitting guest's face, as he gazed at the flames with fascination. To him, obsession with cultivation and artifact refining allowed him to forget many things. Teacher? A voice rose. Surprised, mountain-sitting guest turned his head, eyes cutting through the quiet room to see the black-clad, black-haired man in the cave mansion. Luo Feng. Mountain-sitting guest set aside his refinement work, immediately stepping out. Why have you suddenly come to visit teacher? Mountain-sitting guest smiled. In this world, this disciple was the closest person to him. I've come today to share good news with teacher. Luo Feng smiled. What good news? Mountain-sitting guest asked with a smile, though his heart remained calm. Disciple has cultivated to a very high realm. Luo Feng said, now, all creatures within the source world of the origin continent. As long as they've not escaped the braided cage, every creature ever birthed in history, disciple can resurrect. Mountain-sitting guest felt as if his mind exploded. Resurrect them all? Every creature ever birthed in history? Mountain-sitting guest could not help but inquire further. Yes. Luo Feng nodded, including your friends and family, every one of them can be resurrected. An overwhelming emotion filled the heart of the mountain-sitting guest at this moment. Was it ecstatic joy? Was it disbelief? Unbelievable? Is it true? Is this a dream? Looking at Luo Feng, from his expression, he was certain what his disciple said was true. His disciple Luo Feng could really accomplish it. How many can be resurrected? Mountain-sitting guest couldn't help but ask, can it be 10, 12? Teacher, you can make a list of up to 10,000. Luo Feng said, once the list is confirmed, I can resurrect them immediately. In a single thought, Luo Feng knew the past of the origin world in his hometown, knowing that for his teacher, mountain-sitting guest, there were truly thousands of important creatures. So, he rounded up to a quota of 10,000. Good, good, good. Mountain-sitting guest looked at Luo Feng, tears were already streaming down, smiling as he cried, after the destruction of Jin State, I had only one obsession for revenge. I never thought that the disciple I met in the primordial cosmos would not only help me fulfill my revenge but also resurrect my dearly departed friends and family. Luo Feng could feel that before killing the master of the Shi Kingdom, his teacher, mountain-sitting guest, was filled with hatred and focused solely on revenge. But after the revenge, it was as if his teacher's heart had died. Until today. An incredibly intense vitality, such a strong excitement and joy appeared in his teacher lived, his heart lived again. This was the happiest sight for him as a disciple. This is the list. Mountain-sitting guest, being a godly king, quickly finalized the list within moments. Luo Feng glanced at the 10,000 names, each connected with the past of the origin world, each having a causality with his teacher that Luo Feng clearly understood. They have been resurrected. With a single thought, Luo Feng brought these 10,000 figures from the past timeline to the present. The rules of the origin world operated such that if uncontrolled, time-space backlash would erase any attempt to resurrect. However, now the rules operated with Luo Feng's will as the core, naturally without any backlash. Mountain-sitting guest saw the 10,000 figures appearing in the cave mansion, including the master who once taught him, his many fellow disciples, his life and death friends, and his lifelong love. Mountain-sitting guest stared dazedly at that soul-stirring figure. Was she really back? These 10,000 figures now looked confused, most of them having died in the catastrophe of the Jin State's destruction, while some had died even earlier. What's going on? Where is this place? I'm not dead. Their memories were still at the moment of being destroyed. Mountain-sitting guest couldn't help but walk towards his senior sister. Luo Feng smiled and disappeared. It was time not to disturb the reunion of his teacher and friends. Along the border of the cultivated territory, Chengshe and Guang Yu, the two patrollers, were ordered by Lord Luo Feng to meet the forces of Blood Crane Territory and Omimo respectively. Has the Omimo force withdrawn? The horned man Guang Yu was very surprised. He carefully checked the 12 world groups formerly occupied by Omimo, and indeed, the Omimo side had fully withdrawn. Although they had harvested many resources from the vast territory, they hadn't significantly damaged many origin worlds and millions of worlds. The Omimo force is notoriously slippery. They flee when things look bad. Guan Yu lightly shook his head. The two camps' war just ended, and they immediately retreated. The Omomo force was indeed difficult to deal with. Despite once ranking in the top 3 in the infinite primordial space, the remaining 2 ancient beings were not to be trifled with after their decline. These 2 have survived until now, although not reaching absolute undying, are extremely strong, with powerful life-saving means. Yet, they are very cautious, choosing to flee at the slightest sign of trouble, never easily fighting to the death. I must report to the Lord immediately. Guan Yu felt quite pleased. Another patroller, Chengshe, encountered trouble. The Blood Crane territory force was much more domineering than Omomo. A little guy like you is fit to speak with me? Tell your lord to come meet me personally. A lofty voice echoed in the vast surrounding space-time. The bald man Chengshe looked angry. Even if the innate primordial life camp fights with us, they ultimately lose. You, the small Blood Crane territory, my master is merciful, giving you the opportunity to retreat voluntarily, and yet you show no appreciation. I will report to my lord truthfully. A world-level primordial dares to be presumptuous in front of me. Accompanied by a cold snort. The bald man, Chengshe's avatar trembled slightly and turned to dust, yet as he turned to dust, Chengshe still gazed coldly at a faintly existing shadow in the distance. What can the cultivator lord do to me? That shadow was unafraid at all, thinking he could have the land he occupied returned with a word. Where is such a good bargain? Land of origin source world. Flame, wind and thunder flew out of their seclusion, following the causality induction, heading straight to Huyang City to visit Morosa. Luo Feng has actually become a lord. Flame, wind and thunder were emotionally stirred, yet their emotions haven't settled even now. Just now, they witnessed a group of high-level primordial life forms descending in the dark sacred realm, with Cheng leading numerous high-level primordial life forms, declaring that the entire Dark World group is now the absolute territory of the newly born Lord Luo Feng. Flame, wind and thunder, after hearing the news among the cultivator community for just a moment, could not hold back. Their avatars in their homeland source world immediately came to visit Morosa. Lord. The highest level existence in infinite primordial space. Great, invincible, omnipotent. The last time Flame, Wind and Thunder were summoned by Luo Feng, he was already a half-primordial fusion path cultivator, and they were flattered and believed that Luo Feng might escape the braided cage. However, they never expected Luo Feng would become the greatest existence. Innumerable source worlds have opportunities left by Yuan. Senior Yuan would guide the juniors. In the future, among numerous surrounding world groups, Luo Feng will guide and lead the juniors. The land of origin source world is the Lord's homeland. The entire Dark World group is the Lord's absolute territory. It's only natural that the homeland source world is also the Lord's. What qualification do we have to establish a country? What qualification do we have to occupy such a vast territory? After confirming Luo Feng's current status, they immediately realized the issue. In fact, having experienced several eras of the source world, they were not interested in building an ancient country. The purpose of building an ancient country was merely for resources. But now, Lord Luo is the greatest opportunity. They arrived at Huyang City, following the causality induction, outside Morosa's cave mansion. Why would the two ancient countries' ancestors come to see me? Morosa, giving them face, immediately opened the cave mansion's gate and met them. Flame Wind, Xiao Ma, meets Brother Morosa. Flame, Wind and Thunder greeted respectfully, lowering their stance significantly. Morosa was startled for a moment, then smiled and said, "You two know too." Of course, a large group of high-level primordial life forms descended upon the dark sacred realm and proactively announced everything. Thunder said excitedly, "The entire Dark World group is the absolute territory of the great Lord Luo Feng. As members of the Lord's homeland source world, we feel extremely honored. We are both willing to offer the ancient country, just asking to serve the Lord." Flame Wind also said. Morosa blinked upon hearing this. Lord? The master hadn't told him in detail. He originally guessed Luo Feng might be the master of the source world. Now it seems, his master is far more terrifying than anticipated. According to the information Morosa understood, the ancestor level is the highest tier of the innate primordial life, corresponding to the Lord level among cultivators, with senior Yuan at this level. Now, his master Luo Feng is also at this level. Soon, the master will completely transform the entire land of origin, Morosa said. If you don't voluntarily offer, the two ancient countries will cease to exist. Yes, we understand. Flame, Wind and Thunder replied obediently. I can't promise you too much, Morosa said, looking at them, but I can guide you on a path. Flame, Wind and Thunder listened carefully. Emperor Chu is the master's teacher. Morosa said, with an extraordinary status, if Emperor Chu is willing to help you, your fates would naturally change. Morosa was well aware that the master's subordinates were divided into three factions. One is the Luo family and Earthlings faction, whose status needs no explanation. The second is the Primordial Cosmos Humans faction, including Primordial Ancestor, Primal Chaos City Lord, Jinyan, and Giant Axe, among which Luo Feng's teacher is included. The third is the Land of Origin faction, with Morosa, Emperor Chu, and Mountain Sitting Guest as the core. The only connection for the two ancient country ancestors to establish was with Emperor Chu. Even Emperor Chu Yu, Emperor Qing, Di Fu, and Emperor Ming have good relations with the master. Morosa said. Flame Wind was quite regretful upon hearing this. These juniors hold significantly more importance in Lord Luo's heart than he does. He underestimated Lord Luo's potential at first, did not pay attention, and when he finally realized, Luo Feng no longer required their help. All of them belong to the Flame Wind ancient country. Thunder was now extremely remorseful, as none from the Thunder ancient country maintained good relations with Lord Luo Feng. I've said all there is to say, act wisely on your own. Morosa finished speaking, stood up, clearly signaling them to leave. Flame, Wind and Thunder obediently left at once. If not for the connections of Emperor Chu Yu, Morosa might not have met Flame, Wind and Thunder at all. Because in the three main factions set by the Master, Flame, Wind and Thunder can't even enter the secondary core. In the Land of Origin Source World, among the endless universe ocean, Luo Feng gazed towards the deepest 3,000 primordial cosmoses. Rise! With a thought, in the original time and space of the 3,000 primordial cosmoses, new primordial cosmoses began to nurture, reaching as many as 100,000. The interiors of these newborn primordial cosmoses also began to evolve gradually. Luo Feng allowed these primordial cosmoses to evolve, except for one adjacent to the Galaxy Sacred Land universe, which he began to guide. This primordial cosmos was specially designed for the resurrected beings to live. On the Luo family side, as well as the primordial cosmos human clan, the efficiency was very high. They had already determined their respective resurrection lists. While on the Land of Origin side, Morosa, Emperor Chu, and Mountain Sitting Guest had just begun to make contact. Begin the resurrection. When Luo Feng was resurrected, he was retrieved along with entire galaxies from the river of time and space. Still the Milky Way, still the solar system, still that blue planet. Many creatures are resurrecting, one by one, the dead war gods, war generals, warriors, their families and friends. The Earthlings from Luo Feng's era have the lowest resurrection threshold. As long as they are not major criminals, they are all revived. Swish 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 tilde tilde tilde, on this blue planet, hundreds of millions of lives are being resurrected. Members that Luo Feng focused on, like the members of the Fire Hammer Squad and former heroes, even those close relatives who were lost during the period of Grand Nirvana were resurrected one by Luo Feng. This resulted in creatures who died at different times being resurrected in the same era. Grandfather, father, son, perhaps the son appears the oldest. After all, the grandfather may have died young during the Grand Nirvana period. The father might be a hero from Luo Feng's era, and the son might have lived to old age and died of natural causes. Whoa! On many other planets, creatures are also being resurrected. Besides Earthlings from Luo Feng's era, other resurrection thresholds are much higher. Even for the Luo family, the mediocre Luo family members are not resurrected if they died. As for the entire human clan of the primordial cosmos, the scope is too vast, making the resurrection threshold even higher. Extremely brilliant geniuses, heroes with outstanding contributions, Some pillars of the human clan, these individuals and their valued friends and relatives will also be resurrected. A burly man appeared in the starry sky, holding a giant axe, looking around somewhat puzzled. Wasn't I dead? This place seems to be the primordial cosmos. The giant axe felt some confusion at that moment. With the vast galaxy he sensed within range, and the rules operating within the primordial cosmos, all seemed like his home, the primordial cosmos. But here, there is no virtual universe, and many planets have no creatures. The giant axe was filled with confusion. I can confirm that my soul was obliterated earlier, it was complete death. As for the strongest in the universe, they should not be capable of resurrection. The giant axe moved with intent, and with a swing of his axe, he tore open the membrane of the primordial cosmos and whoosh, flew out of this primordial cosmos. After flying out, the giant axe was stunned. He saw a distant primordial cosmos and another primordial cosmos of the same size, the galaxy sacred land universe, along with another large primordial cosmos. Because the primordial cosmos is so large, even from a great distance, it can still be seen. In my visible range, there are a total of 28 primordial cosmi. The giant axe was a bit dazed. This wasn't the world he knew. Where have I ended up? Giant axe. A group of familiar figures flew in from afar. Primordial Ancestor, Primal Chaos City Lord, Pengong, Dark, Deserted Mirror, Longxing, Hong. You all? The giant axe looked at these familiar beings, and he even realized that some of them were merely divine power incarnations but already far stronger than himself. Giant axe. Welcome to the new era. Primal Chaos City Lord beamed brightly. A source world without an owner can only evolve by instinct, with extremely low energy utilization efficiency. The land of origin is still too small. Luo Feng thought. The land of origin began to extend and expand into the universe ocean, with endless energy surging in, transforming into vast land. This also made the energy in the universe ocean even more scarce. Eventually, the land of origin expanded by 100-fold. 99% of the universe ocean's regions became energy deserts. Only the energy supply for 10,000 primordial cosmi was maintained. Energy needs to be used where it is needed. Luo Feng completely transformed the appearance of the land of origin, only then nodding in satisfaction. The source world origin, the energy is extremely abundant. Higher even than the energy reserves of Lan. Lan maintains a nearly source world-sized body, with the highest level of body energy density, and the matter is indestructible. A source world, maintaining such time, has low energy density, ordinary matter. So more than 99% of the energy is stored in the origin. No matter how many times the source world is destroyed and reborn, it remains undamaged. Luo Feng merely maintained 100-fold land of origin land and 10,000 primordial cosmi, and the burden on the source world origin was still very light. Because more of its energy reserves are to be kept for nurturing life. With an owner, a source world's nurtured life can be 100 times more than a source world without an owner. Luo Feng sighed. The difference between having and not having an owner is too significant. Lord, the Blood Crane territory is unwilling to return the occupied territory and has a malicious attitude, directly destroying my avatar. Chengsha reported the information and transmitted the full process footage to the Lord. Luo Feng frowned slightly. In his territorial range, the long-standing, Omomo influence obediently retreated, yet the younger influence, Blood Crane territory, appeared much more domineering and aggressive. This Blood Crane territory has been known to be rather domineering and aggressive. I didn't expect that in my cultivator territory, they would dare to be so brazen. Luo Feng was somewhat angry. In Luo Feng's view, in the infinite primordial space, only the innate primordial life camp and the ice peak camp were qualified to be opponents of the cultivator camp. As for the Blood Crane territory, what does it count for? I want to see how capable this Blood Crane territory truly is. Luo Feng thought, and instantly his main battle avatar flew out of his hometown source world, heading straight for the border. The time-space of the infinite primordial space is incredibly fragile before Luo Feng, with the highest level of life and death forces easily tearing open a time travel passage. Luo Feng swiftly departed from the origin continent origin world at incredible speed, and in just a moment, Luo Feng flew out of the entire Dark World group. Boom! Luo Feng is flying at super high speed. A world group is an area where many source worlds densely exist, and such places are regarded as prosperous zones, nurturing a large number of innate primordial life. However, between world groups, it is extremely desolate, with hardly any creatures except in a few peculiar environments. And the 3,600 world groups is the area with the most source worlds and the closest distance chosen by the cultivator lords. Compared to those ancestors, my speed is quite fast. But compared to Starlight, it's far inferior. Luo Feng has the experience of traveling with Starlight. Starlight, as if walking on a map, transcends time and space. My traveling speed is too slow. The Blood Crane territory is somewhat troublesome. While traveling, Luo Feng pondered about this opponent. The Blood Crane territory is a relatively small force in the entire infinite primordial space, a force nurtured by a mysterious land. This mysterious land has nurtured numerous creatures, among them the three strongest beings are at ancestor level, calling themselves Blood Lord, Crane Lord, and Shadow Lord. The remaining creatures are world-level primordial and even weaker levels. Infinite primordial space has nurtured many ancient existences, but many don't consider themselves part of the innate primordial camp. Luo Feng thought. Especially the undying and undying beings, who are detached and are unwilling to get involved in the disputes of the innate primordial camp. Like the absolute sphere named Initial, and another absolute cube named Mo-Man. Their forms of existence are similar, both quite peculiar. But Initial considers itself part of the innate primordial and has become one of the 9 emperors. Meanwhile, Mo-Man couldn't care less about the innate primordial camp. There are also many tribes nurtured by mysterious lands. The Blood Crane territory has nurtured the Blood Crane territory clan. The Feather Realm has nurtured the Feather Realm clan, among them the undying and undying Feather Emperor. The Giant God Realm has nurtured the Giant God race. The Infinite World has nurtured the Infinite Great Serpent clan. Their strengths vary, but in essence, there's not much difference. However, the first two haven't joined the innate primordial camp, whereas the latter two have become the 2 holy lands of the innate primordial camp. The best food for the Infinite Great Serpent clan is the Source World origin, and the Source World is the home of cultivators. To contend with the cultivator camp, the Infinite Great Serpent clan must leverage the entire innate primordial camp. Although the Giant God Realm doesn't care about the Source World origin, it does care about other resources. Relying solely on absorbing primordial force for growth is too slow. If one forcibly consolidated various forces into the innate primordial camp, they would have fought internally long ago. Luo Feng thought, the Giant God race doesn't like disputes, and can tolerate the Infinite Great Serpent clan. Would other undying and undying existences be willing to bow down before the Infinite Snake Ancestor? After spending more than 10 days, Luo Feng reached the border of the cultivator territory, following invisible life sensing, heading directly towards the Shadow Lord of the Blood Crane territory. Among the Blood Crane territory clan, the Blood Lord is low-key, rarely showing up. The Crane Lord can be considered peaceful, but only the Shadow Lord is the most domineering. Luo Feng had already known about this figure. The one occupying the cultivator territory was led by this Shadow Lord with some of their tribe. Luo Feng stopped in a vast void, looking from afar. He had already locked onto the location of the Shadow Lord through the life chi mechanism, who at this moment was fused into the vast space, occupying an enormous region. So it is Lord Luo Feng who has arrived. A voice echoed around, "You 8 cultivator lords are occupying a total of 3,600 world groups, isn't that too greedy? I only took 16 world groups, is that not excessive? Shadow Lord of the Blood Crane territory, you have quite the nerve." Luo Feng said. Previously, as the war on the cultivators' side was seemingly losing, the Ice Peak camp and a few other forces took the opportunity to occupy some world groups. But after the war ended, some weaker forces voluntarily retreated. Only a very few were unwilling to withdraw. They all had some reliance. I am also helping you. That voice traveled from different time spaces, Because you occupy too much territory, you provoke the innate primordial camp to act. If you occupied less territory, wouldn't there be much less trouble? Luo Feng coldly surveyed all directions. The opponent's force permeated everywhere. HMPH. With a single thought, centered around Luo Feng, the vast realm of life and death enveloped all directions, crushing every space-time, destroying all hidden shadows in the space-time, forcing these shadows to converge into a massive figure in the distance. It was a towering shadow, with blood-red eyes gazing at Luo Feng. I told you to withdraw before, and you didn't. Luo Feng coldly looked at him. Now you have only one path left. Obediently hand over all the resources you occupied in the cultivated territory, and further compensate with 3 times the resources, and promise never to offend the cultivated territory in the future by a fraction. All the resources I painstakingly seized are to be given to you, along with triple compensation. The vast shadow burst into a peculiar laugh. He, interesting. All those I invaded from other forces, I have never suffered a loss. Lord Luo Feng, with you acting like this, I am very displeased. These 16 world groups seem too few to me now. I want to take over 32 world groups, the vast shadow stated. Otherwise, I will keep an eye on your cultivated territory eternally, attacking again and again, without rest. The voice of the shadow echoed in the surrounding space-time. I would like to see what your cultivator camp's 8 lords can do to me. The blood-red eyes of the vast shadow were filled with ferocity. Though none of the 3 lords of Blood Crane territory had reached the level of undying, these ancient existences had some life-saving methods. The Shadow Lord, with confidence in his life-saving abilities, behaved so domineeringly and aggressively. Previously bullying some weaker forces, this time he bullied the cultivator camp. Very well. Luo Feng stood there, his gaze turned cold. Boom! Centered on Luo Feng, in an instant, a billion blade lights burst out from the surface of his body. All the blade lights locked onto the body of the Shadow Lord through life sensing. In the battles between the 2 major camps, it was the highest intensity duel in the infinite primordial space. Normally, the ancestors played a minimal role, and even the ordinary moves of the cultivator lords like Jin and Mo Man were weak. Only burning the main battle avatars could influence the battle situation. Luo Feng was the same back then. Many ordinary methods were useless. They were annihilated in the face of the multi-layered domains and power of both sides, unable to penetrate the opponent's camp. But now it was one-on-one. Luo Feng's move combined of life and death. Even if it was ordinary among the lords, when it descended on the Shadow Lord, it still made the Shadow Lord feel that innumerable blade lights were cutting and annihilating his body. What move is this? I can't even dodge. The Shadow Lord was somewhat panicked. Even though he mastered the highest level shadow force, making himself like a shadow, capable of merging into space-time, capable of merging into all things, but the endless blade light of Luo Feng still annihilated all life composition parts of him by chasing down life chi mechanism, leaving the Shadow Lord with nowhere to escape. Truly weak. Luo Feng had just become a lord, faced the intensity of battles between the 2 major camps, and now only found this Shadow Lord too weak. Merge? Numerous forces were annihilated. The Shadow Lord could only merge his life forces, with sufficient strength, to resist these billion blade lights. Merged? Luo Feng instantly locked onto the enemy. A brilliant blade light flared. Luo Feng struck. With a terrifying slash following the life chi mechanism, the Shadow Lord could not evade and was pierced through the chest by one slash. Even the escaping power was pierced by strands of blade light. The might of Luo Feng's slash was too terrifying, forcibly annihilating this body of the Shadow Lord, leaving behind only some treasures and such. No life core carried. Luo Feng looked at this scene, and frowned slightly. This was within his expectations. This was also why he found the Blood Crane territory troublesome. In the infinite primordial space, some ancestor-level existences. They lack the ability of undying, and thus have developed other life-saving methods. For example, not carrying their life core, hiding it in extremely hard-to-find special places. Though in this way, the avatar that acts outside might only have 30% of its strength. But 30% of an ancestor's strength is enough to sweep through all creatures below ancestor, enough to act as they please. The life cores of the three lords of Blood Crane territory are all hidden deep within their native Blood Crane territory. No one so far has found their life cores. Swoosh! A wisp of thought descended from afar. A shadow avatar appeared and condensed. It was the avatar of the Shadow Lord. Luo Feng. The Shadow Lord looked at Luo Feng, angrily said, "If you return all my treasures, I might spare you, and stop coming to the cultivated territory." "Give you the treasures?" Luo Feng had already gathered the spoils of war. Most of these spoils of war were the various resources seized from the cultivated territory. "You're dreaming." "Luo Feng. I won't let it slide." The Shadow Lord was furious. "I will come to your cultivated territory again and again, rob again and again, let you never have peace. Everything I lost, I will take back." I heard that to this day, no one has been able to find your life cores deep within the mysterious land of Blood Crane territory and completely wipe you out. Luo Feng looked at the avatar of the Shadow Lord. "I would like to give it a try." "Just you." The Shadow Lord was disdainful. He was very confident in his strength, very confident in the Blood Crane territory that nurtured him. The power of the mysterious land of Blood Crane territory is far beyond what a few ancestors can match. "If you have the guts, just come." The Shadow Lord sneered. After saying that, this wisp of avatar dispersed. Blood Crane territory? Luo Feng knew very well that defeating one avatar of the Shadow Lord was not enough to threaten him. The opponent could breed a new powerful avatar and send it once again. The way to truly deter the opponent is to attack the opponent's lair. I really want to see what is so remarkable about this Blood Crane territory. Luo Feng thought, then tore the space-time passage apart, immediately starting to leave the range of the cultivated territory, heading towards the distant location, Blood Crane territory. This episode is end here.